Hi guys, welcome to Heart of the Matter Plus. My name is Dupla Ayo Adeosi, aka Dips.
And I'm Omotayo.
Alright, I think we have some exciting stuff lined up for people today.
I think so.
It's been an exciting week.
We're shaking a table or two.
Some tables.
Slight
ever so
tilts.
slightly. Alright, so we're going to start with one of the most viral and most talked about just thing that's happened lately, and it's the This Is Nigeria video by Falz.
Yes, so leading up to Democracy Day, Falz released this video, This Is Nigeria, obviously inspired by the Childish Gambino video, This Is America, which is really interesting because I found that there are very similar themes across both. So even when Nigerians keep saying, oh, this Nigeria, it's so obvious that Americans have their own issues as well, and no one is perfect.
No one is perfect. I mean, I think This Is America video touched on gun violence, but the This Is Nigeria video, well, it touches on a bunch of different issues.
Of stuff.
So starting with like the Fulani headsman situation.
Right.
Yes, touched on that.
Yeah.
You know, the killings that have been going on lately.
Yeah.
He also touched on a topic that he always talks about, which is, you know, the Yahoo business and all that. Which I think even recently, Noble Igwe touched on
Yes, that went viral as well.
Yeah.
So Noble, they basically addressed the fact that a lot of people you see on Instagram kind of flossing who have a lot of money, it's not pure.
Yes.
You know, and the funny thing is he got a lot of backlash for it.
Yeah.
Like actually calling out people who are fraudsters, and then people are saying, how dare you come for them? I found that really interesting.
I don't know why. I don't know, that's just a little thing.
Yeah, I think it's this thing, I was having a conversation with a few friends where we pointed out that people who do bad things don't think they're doing bad things. You can always justify it.
Yes.
You can always justify it. So like if you're at work and you know, you say, oh, I'm sick. It's actually costing your organization money, but you do it anyway. You never think you're doing something bad.
Yeah.
Or like if you
I think it's just thinking about yourself in that moment.
Yes.
So really, it's not about whoever else might be affected at that moment.
Yeah, and that's always what triggers kind of like these morally gray areas. He also talked about the Chibok girls. You know, there was this really powerful scene about these young girls in their hijabs dancing, and it was almost painful to see them dancing because we can then picture these young innocent girls who were just in school. Yeah. And who we still don't know who they are. Yeah. We still don't know where they are.
We don't know where all of they are. They're not all back. They're not all back.
Yeah.
And he received some backlash about that because people, I think, were a bit upset at the fact that they were in hijabs, maybe, you know, the religious angle of it, I guess.
But I think that that's so poignant because, you know, that's the only way you can really try to get people to realize that what the situation is. Yeah, because we seem to be quite desensitized to it. We were passionate about it when it first started, but then we seem to have forgotten. And that's kind of what this video did. What else did it?
Also, he talked about the drug abuse situation that's plaguing a lot of the youth in Nigeria right now, which I found to be quite apt as well. Yeah. He just touched on that a little bit. Yeah. But I think the most important thing, well, for us...
That hit home in
you know, with some strength like that, was when he touched on the church. So I don't know if you might have listened closely when you watched the video, when you listened to it, but then there's a little part of it toward the end that's a little bit of that's a voiceover, and it's a pastor who's addressing, I don't know, I guess a congregation and talking about the fact that churches who have established high institutions are charging way more than the members of the church can afford, which was quite interesting. I never thought about that before.
Right. There's no law that allows you to take money from the church, invest in business, and privatize it. No! It is only in Nigeria where you can take money from the church, money contributed by poor congregation member. You go and set up a university that the members cannot attend, cannot send their children to.
I see that. I see the point very greatly. But then if you look at how federal universities are run, they don't have funding. You pay so little to go in. And that's why the standards are not maintained. So there's kind of like this, if a private university run by a church or by a pastor is able to provide amenities, it's because they have the funding for it. So there's kind of like a push-pull situation. But But I also believe that these universities have scholarship systems and things like that to support people, because if you do it for free, it would eventually run down and be like the others as well.
I think we just need to get to that point where we realize that the fact that something is being done by the church, and yes, we do believe that, there is a place for giving and a place for charity, doesn't mean that there shouldn't be structure even within the church. Because if you're trying to provide something that's so basic and something that's so necessary to people, and you want to do it at the best level and standard, then there has to be some structure, some money has to go into it, guys.
Speaking of money and pastors.
Yeah.
So there's this pastor in America. See, we're used to looking at Nigerian pastors and
Let's
kind of
look
like,
outside of the country.
let's twist our gaze abroad over the waters. A pastor, Jesse Duplantis, actually, do you know what? He said that Jesus told him to ask his congregation to pay for him to get a third private jet. It's a third one. He's just on the third. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. The perfect Trinity.
Okay.
And Kirk Franklin called him.
Came for him.
Out. In the most wonderful way. Let's just take a moment to see what Kirk first of all, Jesse Duplantis said, "It was one of the greatest statements the Lord ever told me. Jesse, do you want to come up where I'm at? I want you to bleed me for a Falcon 7X.
I guess that's the name of the jet.
The private jets, yes. He said, "I really believe that if Jesus was physically on earth today, he wouldn't be riding a donkey." See, the issue is no one is saying that Jesus would be riding a donkey, but you already have two private jets.
Third jet.
It's the number that's the issue. It's not the convenience. We understand that you may need to go evangelize in just 1 minute, just to anoint a few souls and return without the stress of an airport. We understand the need for private jets. However, Kirk Franklin said to him, "This is Jesse Duplantis, a televangelist who has 3 planes and is now telling us that Jesus wants us to buy him another one. I'm posting this because now that we see popular culture stand up to the injustices in mainstream society, I believe the church should do the same for its own as well. Our silence can be as loud as the bigotry and racism we see in the public square. Many of these ministries built their wealth on the backs of poor rural minorities that put their trust in the hand of God's shepherds, only to see the prosperity benefit those doing the preaching. Again, they are great Christian leaders, and there's nothing wrong with having a plane. But if the burden falls on the less fortunate and greed is the check written by those drowning in socioeconomic rivers of systemic disparities, God is not flying that plane."
Okay.
Get it, Kirk?
I love it. It's like God is not flying that plane. Look, I think
it costs $54 million to get this plane. $54 million. Now I'm sure there was a cheaper plane he could have asked for.
Wow.
But
the Falcon, what now?
The Falcon 7X that we will tap into.
Amen.
When our time comes.
Amen. I receive it.
But there is this issue of receiving financial prosperity from nowhere that you haven't earned.
But you see, my thing about this whole issue, and the way that I see it, is that I don't know. First of all, you have 2 jets. What job is the third one going to do that the first and second one are not doing?
Off to Africa.
And the second one goes off to where? Europe.
To India.
You know?
Asia. You need one to go to Europe.
Wow. Okay. Yes. Wow.
Perhaps.
Wow.
You know, the funny thing is, I do know that God has given people unconventional words.
Yes.
And I know that God does have a word for wealth for people who are called into that level. I believe God has a word for wealth for all of us. But there's a level of almost obscene seeming wealth. And when it's coming from tithe of the people, it just seems like, let's not go into the tithe discussion.
No.
Don't have enough time for that today. But what do we want to say about that?
My thing is this. I think, yes, it's valid that you might get a word from God, but also I think that you need to be wise.
You need to be responsible.
And responsible, yes. So maybe, first of all, invest in making sure that the members of your church and their children are get great educations, are stable financially, are stable, set up people in business, that sort of thing first.
Yeah.
If everybody seems to be doing okay, because again, there's some people who are just going to decide to not be hardworking. But if by and large everyone's doing fine, then maybe we can introduce that conversation.
Yeah, but I mean, $54 million worth of congregations' money.
It's a lot.
It seems a little excessive, unless it's going to be the plane manufacturers who give you a plane on their own accord. Perhaps Jesse Duplantis, that's what the Lord
Maybe what you should do.
was hinting about.
Anyways, we'll go on a quick break right now. We still have so much more in store for you. Don't move.
Welcome back to HOTM Plus. We're discussing Falz's video.
This is Nigeria.
And pastors and money.
And money and all that stuff.
We're moving from that to Democracy Day.
Yes.
So on the 29th of May, Nigeria celebrated Democracy Day, which is a day that we celebrate the handing over from military dictatorship to democratic rule. And I found it interesting that this is the first year in all the years since that happened that on social media, I have seen people remember
And express,
bring back to us what it was like in military rule. Mostly what we hear is a lot of criticism of the way democracy is running in Nigeria, but we never see people really going back to say it's actually better than it was. You know, people talked about the memories of what it was like, and people who ran newspapers having to run for their lives, some getting killed because you couldn't just say
that
whatever.
Stuff. You couldn't be a journalist then.
Couldn't be a journalist. You couldn't be an objective journalist.
Sure.
The papers and everything was run by the government, so it was all propaganda. It was all whatever they wanted you to say that you would say. I actually remember being in primary school, and all the times you'd have to go home because there is
curfew.
It wasn't even curfew. We had to cut green leaves.
Ooh.
Because there was some political unrest, there was always a strike, there was always
to show
there was
where
also, so you would put green leaves in your windshield so that they would know that you
This
come
is where
in peace.
Yes, your allegiance.
So that the soldiers would not attack you. And several people were attacked. It did happen. So you go to school sometimes and you go back home because something has happened in the news and you have to take your children out of school. People who had to go on public transport, they couldn't go because the buses would have stopped running. There was no milk. You had to maize milk.
You had to maize everything you have.
Sardines and make sure. And sometimes we see our parents now saying, "Where's that milk? Why did you and trying to do these things and we don't know where it's come from."
That's where it comes from.
And so we can be grateful that we have stepped into the democratic
We are grateful
era.
for democracy.
Yeah.
We are grateful for democracy. But there's some other interesting stuff that's happening that's now tied to where we are now in terms of moving along in this stride of democracy.
Yep.
Like the Not Too Young to Run bill.
Yes.
Which has just been signed.
Yes.
We're excited about that.
I know.
However, there's some little things here and there about that bill that we're just like,
When I saw, oh my God, it's been signed, it was again on social media. Everybody was, oh, hallelujah. And the next thing you realize, actually, they didn't do everything.
Yeah. They picked cherry
They picked a bit, yeah. So it's like the Not Too Young to Run bill suggested that you move the presidential, the age to run for president from 40 to 30.
Yes.
And then for the Senate and the House of Reps, I think it was moved from 30 to move to 25. And for the governorship, I think it was to move from,
and the Senate was
from
35
to 30, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
However, the senators and the governors didn't move theirs.
They're like, not today.
But the presidential moved. So it seems a bit of an interesting compromise because are we happy it was signed or are we still pushing for this bill?
Did we actually win?
Did we win?
No? This is a little victories.
Sure.
I mean, we're not sure. But ultimately, I think what I'm most interested in when it comes to running at all is that we have somebody who has the right heart toward not toward running rather, but toward the country and toward the position and the office. Because another thing I was actually thinking about today, which might be a little bit of a contradiction, just stirring the pot a little bit,
all right,
was
stir.
is it possible that we might have somebody who is actually too young.
Oh. But his age criteria, look at France and the president of France.
True.
He's
true.
nice and young.
He's nice and young, you know? So I think at the end of it, it's not just about having a young person and celebrating the fact that someone who's younger after we've had a lot of
Right.
people who are much older run, but it's about the fact that the person's not just younger, but they're actually ready
Right.
to actually go into that
Right.
position.
And that's interesting. I saw a document that circulated a few months ago, earlier this year, where somebody was proposing a strategy for if we wanted to raise our own presidents. And it was very interesting to actually, he talked about investing in the person. So, for instance, like looking at the young people around who are doing good things and selecting, okay, you know what, this person seems like a good person, and then having a long-term view of it. So, for instance, you don't just come out today and say you're qualified and then run today. No one knows you. You haven't, cut your teeth in politics. You haven't gone over the country. You don't know the issues. If you're based in Lagos, you don't know the issues in Zamfara.
Yes.
If you're based in the East, you don't know the issues in the Midwest. We don't know everything. And so if you invest in someone who starts off now and say, okay, let's say in 15 years you can run. What do you need to do between now and then to be qualified? And it was quite a detailed document. He went step by step. You choose the person, groom the person if they are not groomed enough, eloquence, politics, international relations.
We need leaders who can actually speak publicly.
Let's leave that.
Let's leave it, Sha.
For a minute.
Well, I know people know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about.
No. Let's
leave it alone.
transcend away from.
Well, transcending to another little issue, still within the government, the PVC campaign. I'm going to call it a campaign because really that's what
it's a massive campaign.
Yes. I think there's one of the transportation organizations who's now doing the whole I'm on my journey to have you seen
PVC,
it?
Yes,
PVC.
I've seen that.
But a lot of people, especially within the media, are championing this campaign and talking about the PVC and all of that. So.
But then, speaking of that, it's like, okay, you get your PVC, then you vote. Then what? I mean, I voted twice or three. No. Let's not say how many times I've voted, so that you can't trace my age. But I voted a couple of times. But the thing is, you stand in the queue for all those hours. You bond in the queue. You do. You literally do. And then you bless your hand.
Bless you.
And then you go on, and the person you vote for wins. And then what?
Oh, God, I hate that question.
And then what?
I hate that question.
In the last elections, the youth were galvanized behind our president, and we were so pleased. In fact, it was historical. Never before had an incumbent been thrown off, especially in an African country like Nigeria.
Yes.
And now he only... it was amazing. We did it. But then, in the same vein, the same people are complaining about the president that we elected. Are we complaining too much? Should we just be happy? Didn't we get what we wanted?
See, this table that we are shaking.
It's standing.
It's it okay?
It's standing.
Okay.
It can withstand the pressure.
Okay.
But I'm holding it down. Go.
See, I don't even know where to begin to answer that question. Partly because I have to put a disclaimer that I wasn't always, in the country. But I mean, I just have to say that it's one of those things where, if you truly believe that somebody is right, and this is where it boils down to actually doing our research and being totally invested, because it's not just about people talking a good game. Go back and check the track records of these people. I mean, we need to be doing our due diligence. If we then truly believe, after doing all of that, that this person is actually right for this position and you vote for him, you just have to stick with what you've done.
I think we need to learn to commit.
Yeah.
We don't really understand what commitment means.
Yeah, I think we just have to stick to what we've done. I don't know, you voted, just, well, good or bad. It's like marriage vows. Just
for better, for worse.
Better, for worse.
Richer, for poorer.
So really do your due diligence before you now go into that for better, for worse stage. Because once you're in it, you're in it. Yeah.
All right, I think we have to actually go on a quick break, but we'll be right back.
Hey guys, welcome back to Heart of the Matter Plus. We've been talking about Democracy Day, politics and government, but now I want to delve into the church's stance on politics.
Yes.
What do we think that should be?
So there's a church that did a poll a few years ago, and one of the questions on the poll was, do you think that the pastor should talk about politics and government, or should the pastor stick to the Bible?
Stick to the word of God.
And surprisingly, about 50% or slightly above 50% of the people who responded said, stick to the Bible, which is really interesting because if you open the pages of that Bible,
Flip.
it says, go ye into the world and preach the good news to everyone.
Yep.
But the good news isn't just that Jesus came to die for our sins. The good news is also how to live a transformed life.
In every area.
So how do you shine God's light in politics? How do you shine God's light in fashion? How do you shine God's light in film?
Yes.
How do you do your work with so much excellence that people,
Spirit of
even
excellence.
without you having to say, brother, have you given your life to Christ?
They can
People
tell.
are just like, there's something about you I want to know. Because a lot of us think that the Bible and preaching just means and banging people over the head with Bibles and telling you what sin you've committed or not. But there is a very practical element to the Word of God that actually is meant to change us from the inside out. What's the solution to corruption? We want people to have moral values, to value your neighbor, because if you value your neighbor, you wouldn't steal their pensions. If you value your neighbor, you wouldn't ask them to buy you a private jet. But then if you don't have that working, if you don't have that already in you, you're not just going to get it overnight.
All of a sudden.
So I actually personally believe that the church should be as involved in politics as they are in every other aspect of life. The church is not just to provide education, like we talked about.
Yes.
The church is not just to provide missionaries to go and help out here and there, or laying hands on people for them to receive healing. The church is also meant to change people so that we can go out and build our world.
Very aptly said. I'm going to add anything to say.
Thank you
I'm
very
going to add anything to say anything.
Offering basket, please. Okay, no offering basket because no offering basket.
No offering basket. Don't take offering at our church. But anyways, I think one of the most exciting things in these times, talking about the country and what's uniting us,
Bring us together,
is the World Cup. I'm not going to act like I know anything about
about football. Well, there's a ball.
There is a ball.
And they kick it.
They kick it around. And,
and we know that this jersey was inspired by the USA 94 jersey.
True.
Yes.
All I'm going to say is that when I saw that jersey the first time, I think it was about the time when we had the homecoming event in Nigeria.
Right.
And I saw it, and I just thought, this is really, really nice.
Right.
Even from just a fashion style perspective, it's a really, really nice looking jersey.
Well, I think it looks nice, but I don't know if it's because the campaign was so snazzy.
True.
Whiskey sitting there.
I think there's a little element of
people.
both. I think it actually looks nice on its own.
Yeah.
And what I love most about it from a style perspective is that it's very versatile.
Right.
So it looks really great and you can style it in so many different ways. And you can actually wear it to a place that's not sport related.
You can.
Yeah, I think so. And it won't look bad or out of place. I mean, not to the bank or anything, to work at the bank, but
Just be like, I'm repping Nigeria today. Forget about it.
Welcome.
Speaking of fashion and style, this is really cheeky, but Banky W and Adesoa went out and they were out and about in the jersey.
Yeah.
And of all the comments, this thing they are saying that you can wear it anywhere. The comments made my head though. Banky and Adesoa had to come out to explain why she wore her jersey over a jumpsuit. Apparently, it clashed.
Over a jumpsuit?
So pretty much, apparently what happened was that Banky and Adesoa were going out. They were going to the one African music festival.
Okay, I remember that.
So she was already dressed to go there. And then on their way, he's like, let's go there. And then he got her the jersay. So she wore it over her jumpsuit. But apparently it clashed.
Nigerians need to calm down.
Really?
Calm down.
Bring your
people.
chest.
It's not that deep because she now wore jersey on top of a jumpsuit. I mean, if that's the situation, it's fine. Even if that didn't explain, I mean, it's like, calm down. It's not such a big deal. The actual person who actually made me think that it was very versatile was Ebuka. He was also on his way, I think, to the match.
Yeah.
And he looked really nice, styled it with a pair of black jeans, and it looks
Right.
really, really great.
Right.
So
But then do you think that Nigeria is going to win the World Cup this year?
I don't know the first thing about football to even answer that question, my people. I don't know anything about it. I don't know.
I
But
think
we hope,
at the USA
fingers crossed.
94 World Cup, I was about to say Olympics, my Jesus.
It's not Olympics.
It's
so
not the
it's
Olympics.
not Olympics.
Maybe we should stop talking about football.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyways, guys, that's all the stuff we have for you for this episode. Keep watching Heart of the Matter Plus, and you can also follow us on our social media platform on Instagram and Facebook, Heart of the Matter Plus. And we'll be right here next week with some more amazing
Yeah.
topics. See you guys next time.